And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today we are talking about the Commanders versus the Ravens. And this is an initial preview towards that game that is coming up. And so right now we are taking a look at an article here that does not have the Washington Commanders picked to win this football game. In fact, you see a lot of the sports writers here, they have that the Ravens are going to be 31-27. That's Sporting News 28-24, Commanders 34-31, CBS Sports. Sports Illustrated feels like the Ravens have a chance in this one, and also to ESPN Football as well, feeling like that the Ravens are going to come out on top of the Washington Commanders. And so, I think that the Washington Commanders have a great chance at winning this football game. And let's start with the fact that I think that when you look at this game, let's throw out all the stats and let's look at the facts that the Baltimore Ravens initially have started off slowly, and then in the games that they have won, they have not looked very good. And so when you go back and you look at week one, the Ravens versus the Chiefs, they didn't look particularly good in that football game. It took them till the last drive to kind of get it together. Obviously, they lost in dramatic form. Was not able to get Isaiah Likely inbounds on that reception. But I think that the Chiefs really handed it to the Ravens throughout that game. And, they lost 27-20. And also, too, talking about the games where they've been in them and they have lost. The Raiders game, that was pretty tough for the Ravens. They were up in that game, let the Raiders come back to win 26-23 in that one. The Dallas Cowboys game in which they won, they were up big in this game. The Cowboys were able to come back in this one. And the only game that they have looked really convincing in has been the Bills game where they won 35-10. And even this last game against the Bengals, it took some late heroics by Lamar Jackson, an overtime win, a huge run by Derrick Henry to go ahead and get the Ravens this win. And so that suggests to me that the Ravens are very beatable. And I think it starts with just the pace and actually coming out the right way for the Washington Commanders. I think that that is key point number one. And that means that you have got to do what you have been doing, and that is continue to run the football with Brian Robinson Jr., Jaden Daniels, Jeremy McNichols, Austin Eckler. Like, you need to put the pressure on this Ravens defense. And I think one of the best things that you can do for your defense is to keep Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry on the sidelines. And I think the Washington Commanders can do that, okay, because they have really shown that. And I think that that has really been the identity of this team through the first couple weeks of the season, and really every game that they've had. Even the game where they lost against the Buccaneers, they were able to run the football. And so I don't think that that is going to go away. And I think it starts there. You need to run the football. You need to continue to play keep away there. And I think continuing to convert on those third downs, which we have been super efficient at, that is going to be key number one to beating the Ravens coming up this Sunday. All right. So next for the Washington Commanders, I think it is going to shift now to the defense. I think every time that I have looked at some of these articles and in these previews, a lot of the times they are picking apart the Commanders defense, and I totally get it. Look, the Commanders have allowed 23 points per game on average, which places them 21st in points allowed right now. Clearly, we're going to need to slow them down. And I think that that starts from just stopping really the big plays, okay? Because you can give up points in the game, but can you stop the big plays, which this is what the Commanders defense has been able to do over the last couple of weeks. They have kept everything in front of them, and they have done a great job tackling. And so you need to not let the Ravens get those huge big plays down the field to Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers. You need to take away those things, but you also need to tackle very well against Lamar Jackson once he gets into the open field as a runner. Then also too with Derrick Henry, you are going to need to make sure that you absolutely wrap him up. And it is not just going to be one defender on that tackle. You need multiple defenders here. So not too concerned about the points allowed, even though that is a point that has been talked about this week. Next up, okay, they talk about the Commanders currently ranked 14th in total yards allowed per game, giving up an average of 328 yards to opponents. And so, again, I mean, your top 20 in this. Obviously, teams nowadays, they're going to get some yards. I totally understand that. But I think that what was more concerning to me, just listening to Locked On Commanders earlier, is they talk about the fact that we have allowed, I think, an average of about 5 or 6 point 7 yards a carry. So that's a lot of yardage per carry. And you don't want that to happen with a back like Derrick Henry, or you don't want that to happen with Lamar Jackson, because then now that team is a team that likes to operate on schedule. Okay. So if they have like a short gain for the third down marker or whatever, or the short yardage for that third down marker, then I feel like the Ravens get extremely comfortable. But the further back you push the Ravens away from that first down marker and make those third downs a little bit longer, I think that this Ravens offense definitely becomes a bit more guardable. And so when we look at the yards per game, that's where it's going to matter for the Commanders. And you want to make sure that the Ravens are having to really extend themselves on third downs and have to dig into that, because I think that that's what the Chiefs did a great job doing. And also, too, as the game got a little bit later with the Dallas Cowboys, that's something that defense was able to do as well. All right. So next up, the pass defense. We've been solid. We're now 13th. 198 passing yards per game. And I think that that's going to be huge for the Commanders. I think that they can win here. They've been doing well thus far. I talked about how Mike Samra still has been very physical, and he looks to be more comfortable on the outside. And he might be this guy on defense that is going to be the guy stepping up for us in the secondary. And so I feel very comfortable. This is one of the things that the Ravens traditionally have struggled with. And a lot of people thought that they were going to now be able to throw the football all around the yard. And that hasn't necessarily happened thus far, even with Isaiah Likely really taking off this year. That still hasn't really come to fruition for the Ravens, with Mark Andrews, who's got off to a slow start. And yes, I know Zay Flowers is going to get his, but this offense really hasn't found a number one legit wide receiver. So I just think that if the Washington Commanders can continue to tackle well in the secondary, they should be fine there. And then going back to the run defense, talked about the yards per carry, but right now the Commanders ranked 22nd in the league. Obviously, we have struggled on the ground at 130 rushing yards per game. And so that is where the game is really going to be won. And so then that means up front, Deron Payne, Dorrance Armstrong, like these players are going to have to make sure that they set those edges, make sure you keep everything inside. So Frankie Louvu and other players like Bobby Wagner can make those plays inside the box. And so that is the key point, I think, for the Commanders now. You have to be disciplined in your lanes, make sure you push everything inside, including Lamar Jackson, and then go ahead and finish those plays. Make sure that there are multiple defenders on the tackle. Regardless if it is Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry, you have got to tackle well. And so these are the keys, I think, going into this game, the Ravens and Commanders coming up Sunday. I think that this is going to be a high-scoring game. I do think that this is going to be along the lines of a 34-31 game, but I like the Washington Commanders to win this game. I think that they can go in there and they can take care of business. I talked about the fact that Jaden Daniels doesn't seem to be rattled going on the road or playing at home. And I think that it's great that he threw an interception last week, and he's thrown an interception actually the last 2 weeks, because each time he's responded well. So that's even shown me that that's not even going to rattle him. I don't even think, like, if he's having an off day, that's going to rattle him. I think he still makes enough plays down the stretch. And I think that if the Washington Commanders get on the Ravens early, I don't think that they are going to give the Ravens a chance for a comeback. So let me know in the comments. This is initially what we're talking about, Commanders versus Ravens. We'll be breaking down the injury report and continuing our preview for this game. And as usual, go Commanders, and I will see you on the next one. Peace, peace, peace.